Hello, world. Welcome to episode 31 of the Jimmy Canz Show. Special edition here. Episode gonna call What We Think. We did, discuss our last prediction show that we were going to be talking to you all a little bit about what we feel are some of the best story arcs in wrestling history. So Rod and I, we put our heads together and we kind of came up with a top 10. And we got a couple of honorable mentions here as well. So I'm going to run through what our top 10 was.
Okay.
And then after that, we'll discuss our honorable mentions a little bit. So number 10, we had the Ultimate Challenge. All right, that story arc. I mean, it helped kind of pass the torch to a new individual as we entered the 90s. The reason the reason I think it's kind of like at the bottom of it is it didn't pan out the way they thought it was going to. Warrior got the ball, but he didn't really run with it. But the actual story was done well. The confrontation at the Rumble, them kind of coming to each other's aid and getting confused and hitting each, and the tension and there was tension but mutual respect and everything.
And momentum, equal momentum. I think
exactly.
Hogan had never faced anybody with that much momentum.
No.
Coming into a match, it was crazy. It was a whole complete phenomenon. The Ultimate Warrior is a phenomenon. He was on Arsenio Hall. He's on morning talk shows. Like he was a legit equal superstar to Hulk Hogan, which he had never had to that point.
Right. Up to that point.
And interesting side note, it was the very first pay-per-view my dad let us buy in our house. That's how serious it was. Reverend Washington.
Hey, right.
Let us get the Ultimate Warrior Hulk Hogan WrestleMania pay-per-view, $60.
Yeah. All right, so number 9, the Yes Movement. All right. It was something that started organically and just took off and turned into something that was, that transcended the business to an extent. I mean, you saw people doing it at basketball games and football games and everything, doing the Yes thing. And
it was fandangoing on steroids.
Yeah, it was, like I said, well, fandangoing just kind of was something that erupted within the business where people would kind of break into the thing. This transcended the business.
Yeah.
And like I said, it told a great story. Eventually, like I said, it was an organic thing, and it morphed into the story of the undersized indie star overcoming the authority at the time. And it was just really well done in the culmination at WrestleMania 30.
And a similarity between the Yes Movement and the Ultimate Challenge is that both of those characters, Daniel Bryan and Ultimate Warrior, were tremendous chasers of the title. The difference is Bryan was also a great champion.
Mm-hmm.
Once he got the title, he was a great champion, whereas Warrior kind of, like I said, you just like to see Ultimate Warrior chasing down, tearing down the traditional status quo.
I think the thing with Warrior that kind of is like that high-paced, frenetic, style that he did and everything, like it didn't lend well to carrying the big strap, because the big strap you need to put on a show.
It got to be matches. It got to be matches.
Yeah, it can't be these, I'm running down, I'm going to hit you 3 times and jump on you and be out of the ring. That works. That works as a mid card.
And on your way up, right? Because
on your way up,
jobbers, right? You can do that to a lot of workers.
Mm-hmm. All right, number 8. Hogan Andre, WrestleMania 3. The betrayal, the bill, the Piper's Pit. I'm challenging you for the title, and he rips off the crucifix, and and it was the first time since that Hulkamania era started that you're like, Andre could beat him. You know what I mean? Even though it's it's all the work and everything, but especially back then.
It was done so well. The story was done so well. You legitimately believe Andre could win.
Well, not only that, but you also kayfabe was still kind of alive back then. You know what I mean? So you kind of had that more of a sense of this could be his downfall kind of thing. If anybody can beat Hogan, oh my God, it's Andre.
They really got the one.
Mm-hmm. So, and then, like I said, then that kind of spiraled into, the main event and the Twin Hebner thing, and all that. So,
I forgot about the Twin Hebners. Early Hebner brother.
Yeah. So, all right, number 7, Austin Rock and the build up to WrestleMania X7.
Yeah.
Like I said, their feud, went for a long time. I mean, they'd already fought at WrestleMania 15. They'd, multiple times and everything like that. But that Austin Rock build up to X7, Austin having just come back from neck surgery, Rock having ascended, to be on equal status with Austin during his time away and everything. And then, there's the video packages and the interview segments and just the way they built all that up. I mean, especially that interview segment between the two of them with Jim Ross in between, just like that was magic.
You're talking about inarguably 2 of the top 5 biggest superstars of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, The Rock, Stone Cold, Hogan, and then you're talking about maybe Flair and pick somebody else. You know what I mean? You're talking
Flair, and then probably Bruno.
You see what I'm saying? So
No.
you're talking about 2 of the, like, you can legitimately argue that those are 2 of the top 5 of all time. And then for them to have a well-crafted story arc with them 2 personalities, with their abilities outside of the ring, then their abilities in the ring. Rock is the greatest, smoothest, him and Undertaker, super heavyweights I've ever seen, with the cat-like, agility with the power. And then you got Stone Cold, who's just destruction. So it's gonna be hard to ever top that. And some people might even argue that that's the greatest of all time. When you get in the top 10, you can argue with any.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I said, these are all. It's all like 1A, 1B,
110.
Yeah. So number 6, Ric Flair, Terry Funk.
Yeah. Okay.
Culminating in that I Quit classic.
We just reviewed this the other night, me, Rosalind, and Rodney, because I felt like they needed to see this. I felt like that was at a point in time where we'll never get back to that level of kayfabe, the brawling feel of that. It felt like a brawl, but it didn't feel sloppy, right? It didn't feel like botched spot. It felt like there was legitimately 2 dudes that had it. And the thing that stands out in that feud to me the most is it was a legit face, heroic, no help Ric Flair. Like,
I mean it was a Flair without the Horseman. Flair was the baby face in this. I mean, Funk was the despicable, underhanded,
dangerous. It felt dangerous.
The branding irons and
power driving them on tables and
with
Ric Flair with the neck injury. And like I say, it was so far cry from what you was used to at that time with Ric Flair as a champion, especially. So for him to come out there and to come out on top and actually make Terry Funk say, "I quit." Do you remember that match? When's the last time you reviewed that match?
Last time I actually watched that match, it's been a while. I mean, I'm doing my retrospectives right now, and I'm not that far into that that time frame. I mean, I'm coming up on it.
Okay.
So
let me know when you get there, because I like to get your take on it again, your first take on it again. But this is a great match, man.
Next up is WrestleMania 4.
Okay.
In my retrospectives, and then after that will be Clash of the Champions 2.
All right.
And all that. So, like I said, we're getting there.
All right. So whenever you get there, let me know.
Absolutely.
We have stuff to talk about.
Yeah. So number 5, Goldberg Streak. All right. This was done so well, and it was done at a time, where wrestling was white hot with the Monday Night Wars. You had WCW. I'll be honest with you. At that time, WCW desperately needed a fresh, homegrown talent. Other than Sting, they didn't have anybody fresh, homegrown.
Not homegrown. They had a lot of guys from outside.
They had a lot of, but as I say, homegrown. They didn't have any fresh, homegrown talent. Like, you kind of make a point with Flair, but he actually got his start in Crockett and NWA. It wasn't a WCW thing.
And that wasn't a Flair era either. If you think
no,
about
it wasn't a Flair. No, but what I'm getting at is like you can't even say that he was homegrown when you really stop and think about it, because he was a Crockett guy. You know, really, ultimately.
Yes, my name is Mrs.
You know, so Sting was the one that kind of came in there.
To a food stamp certification application we received.
So, but like I say, he was more of a Crockett guy, and he didn't this was like the late 90s. You know what I mean? It wasn't Flair time at that point. So like I said, other than Sting, the only other one you could probably say was a homegrown guy was DDP. And DDP was already in his 40s. You know what I mean? He didn't start until his late 30s and everything like that. So it wasn't. But like I said, there's just that phenomenon and the way they built him up and with his streak and the entrance and the squash matches and everything. It was so well done, and it culminating in that match against Hogan in the Georgia Dome.
So to your point about the Ultimate Warrior's title reign, I think that was a little bit different than the Streak. Was that the way they were able to do a lot of squashy matches, but they also built him up with some formidable challenges like Glacier and DDP on the way. It wasn't just like squash, momentum, then the champion. Kind of like how Warrior, even though he won that Intercontinental title, he beat, who was that, Honky Tonk Man?
Well, he won it twice before he beat Honky, then he lost it to Rick Rude, and then he got it back off of Rick Rude. And everything. So he was a 2-time IC champion. Yeah.
But like with the Streak, it was just momentum, but there was still this element of climbing a mountain. You know what I mean? Then you see him fighting Mike Awesome. That's different than these guys he's been squashing for that first month.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think it was well done. I hate the way that it ended.
Right.
That's my one knock on it.
Yeah, the Scott Hall cattle prod, I think what made that even worse was then to turn around the next night and have the finger poke of doom.
Yeah. It was
just
it had Russo all over it.
Well, Russo wasn't there yet.
Oh, look at him. He catching blame for stuff. I done profiled him. look what I did.
Speaking of the finger poke of doom and everything like that, number 4, the birth of the NWO. Just like I said, the way that was done with, Scott Hall coming out of the crowd, acting like he was interrupting the broadcast, not getting, a proper, every time he would do, he was coming through the crowd. He wasn't coming out of the back, and then Kevin Nash showing up, them saying that there was a third man, the mystery behind it all, and then it all coming, to fruition at Bash the Beach and having it be Hogan. Even though Bobby Heenan spoiled it, it was still really well done.
And it was an element of, is this real? Like that's how well it was done. So it really for a moment.
Especially with the way that Hall and Nash kept things so ambiguous, and they were kind of still portraying their WWF characters. So it was like, is this a real invasion? Are they still with the It was just, like I said, it was a really well done story arc. I mean, it eventually got ridiculous. Which is why I didn't just say the NWO in general. I said the birth of the NWO.
The birth of it. I agree.
You know what I mean? Because like I said, it got to a point where, 90% of the roster was in the NWO.
It was the NWO. It was everybody against what? Booker T?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't even say, it was everybody against Booker T and Sting, because even Sting became.
I was about to say Sting. No, he was over there with his face painted.
Yeah, the Wolf Pack. So like I said, it got ridiculous. But anyway, number 3, we mentioned it in the past. The Mega Powers explode. Just a great story arc. A 12-month arc. the seeds were sown for the Clash before they even formed.
Yeah.
The seeds were sown when Savage won the title, because Hogan helped him do it, and then Hogan's out there kind of grandstanding next, you know what I mean? Kind of. So it was, like I said, they started the wheels in motion before we even knew the wheels were in motion.
Absolutely. The tension was already built.
Yeah.
It was already built in. You already had the two alphas.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird even when they were trying to work together because it was, they tried to re-emulate this in a spinoff storyline with a two-man power trip with Triple H and Austin, but it didn't have the same.
Well, who knows where that was going to go? You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, that one kind of fizzled because, Triple H tore a quad, before that could get going. So, all right, number 2, Austin versus McMahon. I mean, that it defined, a whole era during the Monday Night War kind of thing.
Arguably the greatest ever. Arguably, you can argue it's number 1.
Well, and that brings me to number 1, the streak. All right. And when you just say the streak, you don't need to clarify what streak you're talking about.
Goldberg's.
No, you don't even.
Yeah.
When you say the streak, it's Undertaker, obviously.
Undertaker.
It wasn't something that they initially, designed and everything. All of a sudden, a few years into his run, they realized, you realize he's undefeated, at Mania and everything. And they're like, oh, really? Kind of thing. So it was somewhat organic that turned into something spectacular.
Which is probably the undertone of why is the greatest, right?
Mm-hmm.
When things grow organically, like that's when you're gonna get your best turnout, your best
right.
turnout.
Absolutely. So that was our top 10 honorable mentions. All right, what's your first honorable mention?
All right, so first one I'm going with is Dusty versus the Horsemen.
Okay.
Growing up in the South and growing up on that Southern wrestling, that was one of the greatest storylines. That's what we tuned in every week to see. Dusty fighting off the Horsemen. You talk about the Midnight Rider character when he got suspended because he was a vigilante against this gang. You know what I mean? He's a common man, but he could throw down with the best of them. So Dusty versus the Horseman, my first one. What about you?
I love the Dusty Horseman. The image that's always burned in my head with Dusty Horseman is Starrcade 85. Dusty's entrance. We need a hero.
Yeah.
The Bonnie Tyler. You know what I mean? That song starts playing, and then the camera cuts over, and Dusty's standing there in the entranceway, and he's pumping himself up. And
Yeah.
And then it goes to, and it was just such the juxtaposition of Dusty and Flair. Dusty coming out to that. Flair comes out to 2001: A Space Odyssey and the spangled robes, and so the pompous, I'm better than you, I'm rich, and Dusty was that common man hero. It was just
it was perfect. It was perfect.
The hard times, Daddy, hard times.
They broke his arm. The Horseman broke his arm.
Yep.
It was just Dusty versus the Horseman.
Right, my first honorable mention is Ciampa Gargano. It's not that old of a story arc, obviously. It's real, but to me, it's a modern day Mega Powers.
Yeah.
The way that they built it all up, and then it just got bumped out because it got derailed because of the injury. Like, if it could have culminated, when they wanted it to, it probably would have made the top 10. It was that well done.
Yeah,
but it was kind of a little disjointed because it started and stopped and everything. But it was still, like I said, so it was an honorable mention for me.
All right, and I went back and forth with this last spot. That's always the hardest spot because there's literally 20 more that can fit here.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm going to go with, you know what? I'm going to surprise you. I didn't tell you about this one.
Okay.
The Birth of the Nexus.
Birth of the Nexus. Yeah.
Birth of the Nexus. I'm going to go with Birth of the Nexus. It was,
they trashed the Raw set, choked Justin Roberts.
It was crazy. Yeah. It was crazy. So I'll go with Birth of the Nexus. Like I say, it's the more I want to mention, but I'm going to go Birth of the Nexus.
And my last honorable mention is Kane is Alive. All right. The what led up to the debut of Kane and all that, the way that they built the story of being, oh, your brother's still alive, and then for him to come out at Hell in a Cell, which is probably one of the greatest debuts ever.
Yes.
In the history of wrestling, the way they debuted Kane. But like I said, just that story to lead to that and everything was just very, very well done, in my opinion. So that's my honorable mention. So, all right. That's it. Those are our story arcs and everything else. Give the channel a like, a share, a subscribe, please. And everybody be safe out there. Take care of one of each other, and we'll see you when we see you.
See you when we see you.